Because I make terrible decisions, bro.
How's chlorophyll important in the process of photosynthesis?
It drives the process of making CO2 into glucose and oxygen.
I'm not actually a second.
What do you mean by drive the process? Can energy be created?
Wait.
It takes the energy from reactants.
I don't know that you're given enough in a narrative reading to have all this information yet, but we'll circle back to that. But yes, chlorophyll, I don't know if you gather this or not, but it's a pigment, and it captures that energy. That's the way plants capture energy. So, how does a plant depend on glucose to survive? Why is a plant making glucose?
For energy to drive the cell.
Right, so we can use glucose as a plant. We can use it as a form of energy. You can store it as a long-term energy need. Do you remember earlier when we studied the biological molecules, what it's called when we string a bunch of sugars together? Many sugars. Polysaccharide. So plants can store glucose as a polysaccharide to get through the winter and to utilize when they need extra energy, right? Do you remember the name of the polysaccharide that plants like to store? Like, think about potatoes. There's a lot of this in potatoes.
It's not amino acid, right?
No, those are proteins, right? We build proteins out of amino acids, but it starts with an S. Yeah, it's been a while, but starch. Do you remember that? Starch. We learned that in animals. We store polysaccharides in a molecule that's kind of like starch. It's called glycogen. And sometimes we call it animal starch, right? So plants can make glucose for building material, right? They can use it to build their structures out of it. They can also store it long term to meet their energy needs. And ultimately, they're going to utilize that in their own mitochondria. And that's something that sometimes kids struggle to realize, that plants have both, right? They carry out respiration and they carry out photosynthesis.
We're completely confused. Do we just glue these two parts together?
Yep. So you're going to glue those together, and then you're going to use the inside of the leaf to model some of the inputs and outputs. Yep. I'll leave you be for a little bit. Yes. Alrighty, go ahead. So, do you want, if you're trying to model what's happening, do you want CO2 and oxygen coming out, both of them, or do you want one? All right, CO2 coming in. So what else would be coming into a plant?
The CO2, right?
Think about what you, all right, so you might have an arrow representing sunlight. Is there a third component that plants might want to have? There you go. And then, so those would be your inputs. And then I think you could probably figure out your outputs. What are they actually producing, right? And if you can't, call me back and I'll give you some help.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just kind of getting into this today, but ultimately we're going to go much deeper on Thursday. We'll look at what's called the light-dependent reaction, the light-independent reaction, what exactly is happening at each part. But we're just, again, this is the exploration stage, where we're just trying to gain a little bit of knowledge that I'll then use as a building block for more stuff later.
Okay.
So oxygen and
Resources for the environment.
You guys get everything worked out over here? No? All right. So your ultimate goal is to model these overviews. I was just telling the other girls at the table over there doing the same work that eventually I'll circle back and we'll be learning about something called the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. Right now, it's just a big picture. All right, but you need to show big picture using this as a model. On the inside, you have these arrows. You're going to label them with inputs and outputs. So can you think of what plants would be taking in from? What are the elements that they're going to use to build things out of? See, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. They do, but are they in the pure form of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, or are they in molecules that you're bringing in? There you go. So So we use that as input, right? Carbon dioxide. What else did you say? Water. And what's something else that a plant would need to sunlight? So those will be inputs in your model. And then what will plants be building? Glucose. They do actually, there are some intermediate steps that we'll get to ultimately where ATP is produced. We have these biological gradients. But that's not really something that you can get from where we're at right now. You just happen to know that from previous discussions that we've made. But big picture, right, they make glucose, right? And what's the gas that they release? Oxygen. So I want you to model that just to kind of have something hard to go off of.